My Big Fat Diet Book by Richard Mason. Chapter 7. Out of Control and Diet Pills. In late 2007, I auditioned for a band in a local town. They were really good, an all-cover 80s and 90s band just up my street. And I went for the audition. They were a great bunch of lads and made me feel very welcome. I sang Enjoy the Silence by Tears for Fears. My voice fitted the track perfect, and they asked me to be in the band straight away. We sang a few other songs while I was there. Their wives and girlfriends and friends were sat there, clapping along and singing along and cheering on. It was great to be part of something musical again. Rather than just recording a few tracks at home, this was live music and we was going to do gigs. But my confidence was at an all-time low. I felt fat and bloated and didn't feel like being a pop star anymore. I was over a 40 waist and wearing baggy clothes to cover up my huge frame. I hated the way I looked, so after a couple of rehearsals, I texted the lead guitarist and said, "I'm really sorry, I can't be in your band, I'm just not in the right place." He texted back and called and tried to beg me to stay, but I says, "I'm sorry, I've made up my mind, I can't be in your band." And I never went back to any more rehearsals. I missed out on a great band because of my size. By early 2008, I'd got quite a bit heavier, 17 stone something. I went to the doctors in spring 2008 and told them I was worried about my weight. She weighed me, and I was over 17 stone. She seemed confused by this. She sat there scratching her head and she said, "The last time you were weighed in here, you weighed just over 11 stone. I said, "Yes." She said, "You were weighed less than 5 years ago? You've put on over 6 stone? I just nodded and said, "Yes, yeah." She sort of shook her head and looked a bit bemused by it all. The doctor genuinely seemed shocked by my supersized diet. To me, it wasn't shocking. She put me on some tablets that would help. Or would they? The tablets she put me on were ones that absorb the fat from your diet, and then you pass this fat out when you go to the toilet. How bad can that be? I started taking these tablets in 2008, and straight away I knew they were not for me. I did notice some oil, not too much, but it was enough to put me off using them. I had stomachache with them. I put them in a drawer and I never took any more. I went back to the doctors and told her I wasn't getting along with those tablets. She said, "That's fine, we will try something else." She weighed me again and I had actually lost a few pounds. The next thing she suggested was another tablet. I cannot remember what it was called, but it tells your brain that you're not hungry, and apparently these have no side effects, apart from they may raise your blood pressure. So I stayed on these tablets for about a year, and I had to go back for regular blood pressure checks. Taking these tablets, I think I did lose about a stone. I came back down to around 16 stone something. But as soon as I stopped taking them, I put it all back on. There were no real side effects with these tablets, but I did feel my mood was quite low, and I was quite argumentative, very moody and irritable, more than I'd ever been before. And I stopped taking them, and I knew how much better I felt after I stopped taking them. I'm pleased I stopped taking these tablets, as I felt quite out of control on them. Quite angry, to be honest. Back then, if anyone upset me, I would just have told them what I thought of them and probably got a smack in the mouth or something. To be honest, losing a stone here and there is only a drop in the ocean when you're over 15 stone, or if you're over 18, 19. To be honest, until I was under 15 stone, I wasn't even going to be slightly happy. When the hell was I going to be under 15 stone again? Living with weight. After my father died, I suppose the next few years were a blur. I spent more time with Mum. If we had a day off together, we would do something like go to the seaside or somewhere shopping. And it was a time I really didn't care about what I looked like or how fat I was. Well, I say I didn't. Deep down, I knew I did. We once went to Skegness for the day and was having a really nice time. We went around the market and some shops. It rained towards the end of the day, just before we came home. Mum went in a shop to get something, and I stood outside. My hair was wet, and I had this big blue coat on that made me look even bigger. But it was keeping me dry. Some young Skegness chavs walked past and said, "What the hell are you?" I turned back to them and said, "What the hell are you?" One of them was starting to walk towards me, and his girlfriend dragged him off, saying, "Come on, you're in enough trouble already." I don't know why I said it back. Suppose it's gut instinct, isn't it? To defend yourself, stick up for yourself. He was probably going to kick my head in. I just didn't care at the time. Another time I went to Scunthorpe town centre for a shopping trip. I'd been drunk the night before and I was hungover still. You know that mid-afternoon feeling when you're still a bit rough? That was me as we walked round. I decided to go back to the car as I was bored and I was going to wait for my mum. I got back to the car park, and just as I went round the corner, this skinny, sort of druggy-looking youth nearly walked into me. He said, "Mind your way, big guy." He didn't mean it nastily, he just thought I was a big guy, and I bloody was. But it hit home. I thought, yeah, I am big, but I haven't always been big, and I'm not always going to be big. For years I strived for something to come along and give me something to work towards. The music career seemed dead and buried, and even if I could pluck up the courage to be in a band, standing up in front of people and singing again was something that sent the fear of dread through me, instead of goosebumps like in the old days. Life was at a big fat standstill, and I didn't show any signs of moving forwards anytime soon. In 2009 my kidneys were playing up a lot, pains in my side. I knew what was coming, kidney stones. I had suffered with these on and off for years, hadn't I? On and off they kept coming back like an unwelcome visitor. I didn't know what caused them. I never really thought it could be something that I was actually doing, like something I was eating or drinking. I just presumed I got them through bad luck or some other reason. But deep down, I think I knew it was my poor diet that was causing them. My health in 2009 was probably at its worst for a long time. What was happening to me? The food and drink I was consuming was not good. In fact, it was pretty bad. Some weeks I would drink 5 or 6 nights out of 7, at least a bottle of red wine, and sometimes a can or 2 of cider if the wine wasn't enough. And whilst I sat there having an alcohol binge, I was also having a food binge. 3, 4, 5, 6 packets of crisps, some bread, some biscuits to sober me up a bit. 2009 was a bad year. A year I was maybe at my biggest. The bathroom scales once said 19.5 stone. I used to just step on, see the reading, and step off quickly. How the hell had I got this big? 19.5 stone. The bigger I got, the less I cared. If I wasn't at work at night, I'd sit there in front of the TV or sit upstairs watching old DVDs, drinking wine and eating crisps. It was like I was self-punishing myself in some ways for being big. I just didn't care anymore. Some nights I wasn't even that hungry, but I ate. One bottle of red wine no longer got me drunk, so I had to buy a bottle of 13% red wine and 2 small little bottles of 13% wine. I would have these either before or after the main big bottle, and it would just be enough. I had 2 very part-time jobs. One was in a barber's and one was in a pub. I wore baggy clothes and kept my hair long to try and hide away from people. But both jobs were very public and people noticed. One day in the barber's, a guy said to me, "Are you new?" I said no. He said, "Where's that other lad? He's a lot thinner build than you are." I said, "I'm the only lad that's ever worked here." He said, "You're not Richard, are you?" I said, "Yeah." He just looked down, shook his head, and then went quiet. I felt like I just died inside. There were some similar experiences in the pub trade. The cricket team came in, and I'd seen them various summers before, and it was the summer I'd been at my fattest. They hadn't been in for a year or so, and one of the lads sat at the bar said, "Jesus Christ, he's got big, hasn't he?" Quite loud. He didn't even say it quietly. I could have cried. People think it's okay to insult you when you're big, but it isn't. It's just bloody rude. Everyone thinks you're fat because you choose to be. Sometimes it's out of people's control. I was out of control at this time. Them guys and their opinions knew nothing about me. They didn't know what I'd been through or what I was going through at the time. I avoided all public events. I hated weddings, birthdays, get-togethers, anywhere where there'd be a party. Anywhere where I would be seen, especially by people who hadn't seen me for a few years. People who hadn't seen me since my thin years. That's when you get all the stares and all the, oh, you've changed. They may as well just say, oh, you've got humongously fat. It's awful, but the bigger you get, the further away you feel from ever being free of your weight or vicious circle. My diet was so unhealthy, all that bread and peanut butter for breakfast, crisps for dinner with more bread. None of it seemed that filling. It just made me crave even more. Chip shop tea and takeaways. I'd order a Chinese and have chips, rice, stir fry, prawn crackers, curry sauce, and eat the lot in one sitting. And by the end of it, I'd be so stuffed I'd feel sick. My mum was living with me at the time, and she didn't eat a quarter of what I ate from the takeaway. I'd always feel very sick. My body was this flabby, fat mess, and only getting worse. I'd lose a bit of weight, and then put more back on. I've never felt so down. I'd go through phases of, right, I'm going to lose weight 2 or 3 times a year. And I did lose some weight, but it didn't take long to knock me down again and fall off the wagon. And when you fall off the wagon, you fall off the wagon hard. You think to yourself, right, I've some time to make up for here. So you binge until you can't eat any more. Daily diet for 2008, 2009 and 2010. Breakfast was 3 slices of thick white toast with either margarine, peanut butter or both. A thick layer of. Mid-morning, crisps, 1 or 2 packs. Lunchtime was 2 or 3 pieces of toast, 2 or 3 packets of crisps, all tipped into one bag or a bowl. Biscuits. Mid-afternoon snack was a cup of soup, 2 or 3 packets of crisps or some biscuits. Tea time was a vegetarian burger, vegetarian sausages, chunky and coated oven chips, either put in the oven or sometimes I even fried them. Who would fry oven chips? Boiled vegetable or salad with a good drizzle of salad cream, with 2 or 3 slices of thick bread. Evening snacks would be anywhere between 2 and 8 packets of crisps. Sometimes peanuts. Some evenings a bottle of wine, usually 5 nights out of 7 involved alcohol in one way or another. It was either wine or cider. My crisps addiction was something that had really took hold of my life. I could get through about 10 bags some days. One day I counted about 13 packets. Some days I would do well and just have maybe 1 multi-pack of 6. 1 multi-pack of 6. Looking back now thinking, how the heck I ate 6 packets of crisps and called it just a good day. By mid-2009 my kidneys had got so bad I was passing blood in my urine. I ended up at the doctor's and booked in for kidney stone treatment soon after. This time they decided to use a keyhole camera and go up the urethra and take them out that way. Wow, was this going to be painful? Sticking a camera up my urethra. Before the operation I went to Blackpool. 1 week prior to going to Blackpool I had a binge session one night. The usual crisp bread and a bottle and a half of wine. I got up and I felt like awful pains in my stomach and pains in my side. Something was very wrong. The next few days and the rest of the week I didn't touch alcohol and I drank lots of water. It seemed to clear up. By the time I went on holiday I felt okay. I drove there. Mum was unsure about me driving as I could feel ill again. I knew deep down I would only feel ill if I drank or overate, so I tried not to do either. For the first few days I didn't have any alcohol and I told myself it was going to be a dry week. But by day 3 I did start to have the odd glass of wine, but I didn't go overboard with it. By later in the week I did start to feel ill, but I managed to turn it around before we drove home on the Monday. I knew the drink and food was part of my kidney stone problem, if not all of it. I had the kidney stone operation in 2009 and it was horrific. After the operation, I lay in the day surgery aftercare unit feeling like crap, in great pain. It was like passing glass when I went to the toilet. I went home and had a day or so off work. The pain kept coming in waves. It was like someone had put barbed wire inside of me and then twisting it every now and again, and the twisting would last between 5 and 15 minutes. It was the worst pain I had ever felt. This made me think seriously about the amount of alcohol that I was consuming, or had been consuming. The whole experience was a wake-up call. It had a definite impact on my food and drink choices from then on. No way did I ever want to go through anything like that ever again. In 2009, I started to get quite frustrated about music and wanted to write again. I wrote lots of lyrics, songs, and played with them, and put some ideas down on my PC. A lot of the lyrics have just stayed on file or bits of paper for a later date. I recorded a couple of dance type tracks with my PC set up. I auditioned for another band in 2009. I'd lost a bit of weight and I felt a little bit more confident. My weight was up and down though, so I still felt massive. I was still maybe around the 17 stone mark. I went to audition for a band near the seaside, and the guys there were really nice guys, ordinary slim guys who both played guitar. We got together and we spent the rest of the day working on some songs together, and they automatically wanted me to be in their band. It was going to be more of a trio, but I was excited about what was going to come. By the evening time, their father came in and said, "You lot have had nothing to eat all day. Let me do a fry-up." I said, "I'm okay. I don't eat meat." He says, "In that case then, I'll go to the takeaway." It had been a healthy week or two, and I had lost a bit of weight, and this guy was going to go and fetch a load of chips and pizzas. I tried to make excuses, but he was having none of it. He said, "No, Richard, you've drove all this way over here. The least thing we can do is feed you." Anyway, we sat there playing around with some songs, and they were playing guitars, and I was singing and writing lyrics. And their father came back through with a couple of boxes full of pizza and chips, onion rings, and a bit of salad. Oh no. I didn't really want to eat all this kind of food, as I was just being really healthy at the moment. But the lads opened the pizza boxes, threw them towards me and said, "Get stuck in, Rich." So that was the end of the diet for that week. Whilst with them, we got a rough demo together, and it was going really well. I was going to go back and work on some more songs with them, but I got back into old habits with my eating patterns, and I felt like crap again. Drinking, overeating. I just didn't feel like I wanted to front a band. They looked so normal and slim, and I couldn't be this huge guy fronting the band. It wouldn't have looked right. So again, I made my excuses. Kept saying maybe next week I'd come over, but no, I just made my excuses and never went back to the band. Another band I'd missed out on being in because of my size. End of chapter 7.